Hi everybody, Laura here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to be a part of the Lucky to Know You release blog hop with Simon Says Stamp, and I have a colorful wreath project to share with you featuring some of these Lucky to Know You release goodies. I'm going to start with the panel of Neenah Solar White cardstock. I'm temporarily adhering it down to my grid mat because I'm going to do some stenciling. These are the new leaves stencils. You get 4 different mini leaf images. I'm taking one of these nested circle dies. Whether you want to trace the circle die itself or if you have a die cut, you can trace the die cut. I had one and it was the right size. I find if I don't trace a circle, I end up with a very wonky wreath and it just doesn't look good. If you can do it, you've got skills. But I need to trace it first. It helps me to stay consistent with that curve. And then I just start lining up the wreaths, different ones, mixing and matching, and go into town. It's very, very simple. You don't need a lot of ink. You don't have to exert much energy. Of course, I'm using my mini distress inks. They're my favorites. I reach for them time and time again. But use whatever inks tickle your fancy. Whether it's pigment, oxide, dye ink. Just use the colors that you love. And you could customize this for different occasions. You could just do a nice green wreath with different shades of green. You could do a Christmassy one. You could do an autumnal one with, autumn shades. You could do a pastel-y wreath for Easter. Yeah, without even thinking, without even blinking an eye, I just started doing a rainbow one. I just do that. It's what I do. So I'm working my way around. A lot of people always like to ask me, Laura, do you use a separate ink sponge for all the different inks, to keep one sponge per ink pad? That way you can get the truest color. And that sounds great in theory, but practically speaking, I am not organized enough and I am way too lazy. I don't take the time. So then you'd have to buy a bunch of sponges and you'd have to organize them in some way. Or what do? They Velcro them to the back of the ink pad. Sounds great. If somebody did that for me, I would love it. But since no one's doing it for me, I have not taken the time. So I just grab a blue for a blue, no matter what ink I'm using, and a red for a red. And I kind of like the surprise that I get. Doesn't bother me, not one bit. Because look at how this wreath came out. It's like bada boom. I love it. Now for a sentiment, I'm using this new Just Because Word Mix 2 stamp set. This allows you to stamp several sentiments at once, although I only need that large circle one. It says a little note. I went ahead and inked the whole thing up. I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then I'll stamp them all. You do have to stamp it a couple times. I did, at least, to get that really sharp, crisp black impression. But I'll tell you what, when you do, it looks like it's been printed off of a printer. So gorgeous. Then I take that coordinating Word Mix 2 die and I try to line it up as best I can, run it through my die cutting machine, and there you have a bunch of die cut sentiments. I'll save those for a later date. But popping up my wreath, I did have to trim it down a little bit because I like that nice white border that I get on my card base. Popping up my sentiment. And you could stop right there, but here's where I take it over the edge. I went to town with the embellishment. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. You just never know. I'm using these little things by Lucy, these rainbow sparkle mix. I think that's what it's called. And they're like little jewels or gems. I love the Studio Katia embellishment wand, a little bit of glossy accents. And I went, do you think I went overboard? I don't know. It's a controversial topic, but I love it. I just love it to death. And this card is finished. Make sure and check out the rest of the Lucky to Know You blog hop and the new release over at Simon Says Stamp. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.